Just tell us about Americans for Contraception.
Well, we're here fighting for your right to birth control. And actually, this week we had our 20-foot inflatable IUD named Frida. She was in town, so people got a chance to get photos with her and help educate and amplify the message that your right to birth control is at risk.
Yeah, and this is something that has pretty much flown under the radar, I think, for most of the corporate media. There have been, I've ranted about it on the air a couple of times. There have been a half a dozen beginning points in various states where state legislators have come out and tried to outlaw birth control. And then, of course, there's the whole national RNC talking about bringing back the Comstock Act, which arguably could outlaw birth control, or certainly many kinds of birth control. Fill that picture in for us.
Well, it's important to pay attention to what just recently happened in Washington, D.C., where Republicans in the Senate blocked the Right to Contraception Act. They filibustered it. A couple Republicans crossed over to support it, but the Republicans are the reason why the Right to Contraception Act did not pass the Senate. And in the House...
And the Right to Contraception Act was what?
Protecting your right to access birth control.
It basically said the states can't outlaw birth control, right?
Right. This is protecting your access on the federal level because we've seen with this particular radical Supreme Court that rights and freedoms we may have taken for granted over the past few years or decades, they could decide one day to take them away.
So why would Republicans be opposed to the right to contraception? I don't understand this. It seems stupid. I mean, in addition to just morally wrong and all that, just politically stupid.
Well, it's hard to explain it when 90% of Americans support birth control. I think that some elected officials are spreading misinformation and trying to equate birth control with abortion. They are not the same thing.
Right.
And so I think from a religious perspective, there are some people that are trying to combine the issues, but they're two separate issues. And I think there's a lot of misinformation, too.
The Catholic Church has been, just insanely anti-birth control forever, famously, and still are to this day. And they finance a lot of that kind of stuff. But has that, and they were the original anti-abortion folks, and the Republican Party up until 1979, 1980 was totally pro-choice with regard to abortion. And then the whole Protestant, when Reagan brought Jerry Falwell in and Ralph Reed in, basically they all became anti-abortion. Has the Protestant right, I guess you would call it, the hardcore right-wing Protestant groups, have they adopted that Catholic antagonism, around antipathy toward birth control? Well,
I think that you're seeing with the Southern Baptist Church holding a vote against IVF that all of the reproductive health care issues, especially affecting women, that they're taking stands against all of them. So I think that this is not just a Catholic-specific thing going after birth control, that we're seeing it across the Republican right, unfortunately. And we've seen misinformation coming from elected officials. We've seen in Virginia and in Nevada, the state legislators passed a state-specific Right to Contraception Act, and then Governor Joe Lombardo in Nevada and Governor Glenn Youngkin in Virginia vetoed it.
Both Republicans.
Yeah, they both chose, and they said things about religious freedom. Or, they made excuses for why they didn't support a bill that basically said you have the right to birth control.
That's crazy, and you think that they're. I get the religious constituency, whether it's Catholic or evangelical Protestant. I don't get the non-religious, the secular opposition to it. What rationale do they offer? Or is this just good old-fashioned misogyny? Is this? I understand if women don't have access to birth control, it's a hell of a lot harder to function in the workplace and to engage in politics. And you've got twice as many female Democrats in Congress as you do women Republicans. I mean, is that something?
Well, I think they're trying to turn back the clock. They have this idea of going back to 1950s or earlier idea of the American family, where where women stay at home and have kids. And if you are a childless cat lady, you're not allowed to take part in American life.
So this is the trad wife thing.
Yeah, I mean, that seems to be their goal.
Wow. Wow. And the subtext to that, it seems to me, is we want more white babies, because this seems to be largely, something that's associated with white Republicans.
There is a strain of natalism where they are very concerned with how many babies you're having.
Oh, J.D. Vance is all over that. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Laura Packard, Americans For Contraception.org is the website, FOR, Americans For Contraception.org. Check it out. And AF Contraception on Twitter. Laura, thanks so much for dropping by.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. We'll be right back.